I suppose instead of sitting here and relaxing, I should do the video I actually came out here to do. Which, as you may guess, considering that we're sitting in a hammock here, is a hammock video. So to be more specific, I want to take just a short little period here to take a look at this hammock here. This is the Sheltowee Shell Hammock. And this is one that, full disclosure, they gave to me to try out. I actually used it on my previous trip right here in Red River Gorge. So if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. It was a great time with a bunch of other YouTubers, did a little 3-day trip. But anyway, this isn't going to be a review per se because I've only slept in it 2 nights, and while that's good to get a good general feel for the hammock, I don't feel 2 nights is enough to give a comprehensive review. So instead we'll refer to this as sort of a first impressions video. So as I said, this is the Sheltowee Shell Hammock. It's sort of unique in that the underquilt that you see here is actually integrated into the whole system. You'll see more what I mean about that here in a moment. But basically it is built in, it is non-removable, which has pros and cons, right? Which we will again get to in a moment. Now because I'm super prepared, I didn't bring this information out here with me today. Oops. But luckily, I have full LTE where I am right now, so I can just pull up their website and tell you some of the stats on this. So you can get this in 3 different varieties: a 55-degree variety, which is 2 pounds 9 ounces, a 40-degree option, which is 3 pounds, and a 20-degree option, which is what I have here, which is 3 pounds 6 ounces. As for cost, with this configuration here in the 20-degree version, you're looking at a starting price of $329, which includes the hammock and of course the underquilt because it's integrated, as well as the cinch buckle system with the tree straps, which we will take a look at in a moment. Now the hammock itself is made from a 2.4 ounce Hexon fabric. Basically this just means that it's really quite strong for how heavy it is. In fact, I believe I just read the weight rating was around 400 pounds, so this should support most people. And it feels pretty nice. It's almost cotton-like. I don't know about you, I know some people get super geeky about fabrics and stuff. I couldn't really care less about that, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Now one other thing about this hammock that's unique for me personally, because I've never tried it, is the fact that this is a symmetrically cut hammock. So what that means is, like my Hennessy hammock, which you may have seen in some other videos, it's an asymmetrical hammock. So you're designed to lay on the diagonal one way. You've got a head box and a foot box, right? Well in this, it doesn't matter which way you lay because it's cut symmetrically, which I found kind of nice. Also, you'll notice that this version does not have a bug net. They do make hammocks with bug nets, just not this one. Now above me here we have the continuous ridgeline, which is nice. It helps the hammock maintain its shape when you achieve your hang. And it also gives you a place to hang like a little gear organizer, which this hammock does come with, a little mesh one. It's got 4 pockets here, as you can see, and it's secured with little Prusik knots. So what that means is if you grab the knots, you can slide it no problem, but it won't slide on its own. Just pulling on the divider here, as you can see, it will not move. Now as for the suspension system, as I said, it does come with these cinch buckles here. They're pretty nice, most everybody's seen them now, but they allow you to easily make adjustments to the hammock. Have a set of tree straps there, the shorter variety that comes with most hammocks. It works fine, especially here. I'm actually in pretty tight on these trees. I don't know if you noticed in that previous shot, but this is a little bit tight, and these trees are smaller, so it's no problem. But I did try to take this to Tennessee on a trip, and had some issues with these length tree straps, just because the area I was in was more old growth, so really big trees and they were further apart, and I really didn't have anywhere to hang, so actually I didn't end up staying out on that trip. What really sets this apart and is unique is the fact that the underquilt here is built in. As you can see, it is actually sewn in with the hammock. It is not removable, and all of this goes into the integrated stuff sack here, as you can see. And I will show you it in the stuff sack because it is actually really bulky, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So one of the nice things you get from this being all integrated is you can do something kind of unique here, and that you can put sort of this little, let's see if I can get to a spot where I can show you. Let me move the hammock. Hammock out of the way here, you can see that there's this little mesh pocket here. So the hammock, envision it, would be over top of this, and what that does is this gives you a little place that you can actually stash some gear down in here. So that's a really nice little feature as far as I'm concerned. You know, just a little place to keep a few little odds and ends that you might want close by at night, but that you don't necessarily want in the hammock with you. You know, maybe an extra jacket or socks or whatever if you get cold, or, you know, really whatever you want to put in there. So that's nice. And then the underquilt does have these shock cords here that you can loosen or tighten, and this just affects how tightly that underquilt is going to hug up against you. Obviously, if it's tighter up against you, you're going to be snuggled in there a little bit more, and it's going to keep you warmer. Whereas if you loosen it up, the wind's going to be able to get through there a little bit more and help keep you a bit cooler. Alright, so that gets us through the basic features of the hammock. But here's the important part. What do I actually think about it, right? So I want to stress again that this is not a comprehensive review. Again, I slept in it 2 nights, alright? 1 backpacking trip. So keep that in mind with these thoughts. But regardless, I think I've got enough experience with it that I can say that overall, I actually really like it. It was super comfortable. It kept me warm the entire time I had it. With that being said, there are a couple little things to keep in mind, as well as an area for improvement. And that area for improvement is in the underquilt, more specifically with the way these baffles are sewn. So as you'll notice, the baffles are sewn horizontally here. Now on most underquilts they're sewn vertically, so they run the length of the hammock. And this is something I actually never noticed before, because like I said, I don't have underquilt experience. This is something that actually Tim Watson pointed out to me our first night on that trip, and as soon as he said it, I realized he was right, and realized it was responsible for a couple cold spots I had throughout the night, because it did drop down in the 20s that night. So why do most of them sew it vertically? Well, now I know. It's because it stops the down from falling, well, down. If it's sewn vertically, the down will stay pretty much in place evenly along the whole length of the hammock. However, with this setup, when you're in here and this is around you, the down is going to have the ability to sort of, well, again, it's pardon the pun, but it's going to fall down in the baffles and collect mostly at the bottom. In fact, right now, I can feel that most of the down is here at the bottom, whereas there is down up here, but there's not very much of it. So simply changing the direction in which these baffles are sewn, I feel like would actually greatly improve the performance of this underquilt. As I said, that first night on Hanson's Point in the previous trip, I did have some cold spots, and at the time I couldn't really pinpoint what it was, but as soon as Tim mentioned that, I realized that's probably what it was, because the cold spots were kind of up here on my sides, right? Right where the down wasn't going to be as it slid down throughout the night. So I would suggest changing the stitching on that. Pretty minor change, and I think it would actually make a big improvement. Now the next one is kind of a minor annoyance that I don't know if there's a way to fix or not, and it's not the end of the world. It's not anything that's going to make or break the product, but it is kind of annoying. And it's at the ends, with the hammock and underquilt and ridgeline all being one big piece here, everything kind of bunches up and it gets twisted up. I did my best to get some video of this when I was setting it up, because I actually had this problem again setting it up. It's really hard to get the decent footage of, but everything gets twisted up and you got to kind of go and untwist it. It's just an annoyance, right? It's something to keep in mind. Again, it's not a deal breaker by any means. If anything, it's a minor inconvenience. And the final thing to keep in mind is that, as I said, with this all packed in the stuff sack, this is extremely bulky. So in my Osprey Atmos 65 liter backpack, this is a tight fit in the sleeping bag compartment, and I mean it is tight. It fills up the entire thing, so it's bulky, and it's kind of heavy, 3 pounds, however many ounces I said, 6 ounces I think. So 3.5 pounds about. Now with that being said, I don't think it's any more bulky than if you had a hammock with a detachable underquilt. The only difference is the bulk is in smaller packages. However, with them separate, you can actually go, and I would feel like anyway, you could go and compress the down quilt more. With this all as one compact package here, you really can't compress it as much as you would think. Whereas if the down quilt was separate, I'm pretty confident you could really compact this thing down to be a lot more compact than what it is with this. And then the hammock itself would actually, compact down to nothing. So something to keep in mind there. Now we of course must keep into account the fact that this has an integrated underquilt. It's sort of the unique feature of this hammock. Now it has pros and cons, and you could go either way with this. So it's neither a selling point or a reason to not buy it per se. But there are things to keep in mind. Now, the obvious con here is that it's an integrated underquilt. So, for this case, this has a 20-degree underquilt, which means that this has a 20-degree underquilt, period. Doesn't matter if it's, in the 20s, or if it's, in the middle of summer where it's getting down at maybe a low of 75. I obviously wouldn't really want to use this in the summer when it gets down to around lows of 75. I think it'd be far, far too warm. Even with this really, really loose, it would just be too much insulation in my opinion. When you buy the hammock and the underquilt separate, you get a little bit of versatility with that. You know, I can have a 20-degree underquilt for winter and maybe a 50-degree underquilt for summer, and I can really kind of customize my gear. Now, with that being said, the integrated has advantages too. For example, you get the advantage of being able to do things like those little gear pockets, and setup is a lot easier because the underquilt's already here. Literally, all you got to do is show up, find your trees, and pitch it. That's it. There's no messing about getting your underquilt, hung under your hammock and getting it positioned correctly. All that's done for you. So it's extremely easy. So if you're somebody that's looking for sort of a grab-and-go solution, doesn't need a ton of work, this hammock is great. As I said, I quite enjoyed it. Now, however, if you're more of a geared nut, or somebody that wants a lot of versatility out of every piece of gear, this one may not be the best option because, like I said, you can't really switch out your underquilts. Now, with that being said, they have another version of this hammock. It's called the half shell, and it is, well, just the hammock. It doesn't have the underquilt. So that might be an option for you, because the hammock itself, everything here, as I said, I quite enjoyed, so that might be an option for you if you fall into that category. So, overall, having spent a couple nights in this and played around with it, as I said, I really enjoy this hammock. From the limited use I have of it, so far recommend it. As I said, not an extended review, so I cannot speak to the, longevity of it or the durability of it over extreme period of use. But for the time I had it, I quite enjoyed it, and I don't see any major defects in this that would make me say, no one should buy this. In fact, I think that there's a certain subset of the market, as I said, that this hammock would be perfect for. So, there you have it. There's my sort of rambling thoughts there on the Sheltowee Shell Hammock here. If you guys have ever tried them out, let me know what you thought of them in the comments below. And if you haven't checked them out, go check them out. They're a great local Kentucky company, and I met the owners and everything. Very nice people. So, go check them out.